From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
It's time for a sweet treat.
We have a wonderful crop out here.
We head to Louisiana for strawberry harvest. Digging out.
Very, very hard to open and to get around.
Now farmers in North Dakota are dealing with feet of snow. And welcome news for producers as Plant 23 gets underway.
These numbers have gone down tremendously.
Where you could be saving some money this spring, right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Plant 23 is underway and there's some good news for farmers. Most are seeing relief in input costs versus a year ago, and that includes fertilizer. Michelle Rook joins us with the outlook for the planting and growing seasons.
Clinton, while fertilizer prices are still historically high, as farmers head to the fields this spring, they're facing substantially lower product prices than they were a year ago. In 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and a production ban for key nutrients in China had driven those values to all-time record highs around the world. While fertilizer prices vary depending on how far away farmers are from the main supply channels, values for all products have been working lower the whole year. It's largely a result of demand backing off. But also helping is the improved movement and a drop in barge freight rates, with water levels on the Mississippi rebounding from historic lows.
We continue to watch NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana, due to its robust liquidity. It's a very good day-to-day market gauge. And I actually ran these numbers versus a year ago. Urea, UAN, and hydrous and potash are all down about 60 some odd percent from where they were this time last year. Phosphate's only about 45-50%, but again, these numbers have gone down tremendously.
Linville says prices for many fertilizer products, especially urea, fell the hardest in March because it was a poor application month with the cold, wet weather. However, values have moved back up the last 30 days for farmers as planting has started to ramp up, especially for UAN and urea.
All of a sudden now, demand is starting to step up, saying, I need these tons for the spring. And that demand is starting to excite the marketplace. We have actually seen over the last few weeks, NOLA urea barges dip down to a low of $290. They've been trading today $350, $355. It's up $60 a ton over 30 days.
Now, StoneX is staying with their planting forecast for 92 million acres of corn despite the heavy snowpack in the northern plains states. With that demand, Linville expects prices for many fertilizer products to stay firm through May, but then soften in June through August, which is good news for in-season applications. Linville advises farmers to communicate with their retailers to make sure inventory is in place. He says if farmers wait until the last minute, hoping for prices to go down more, they may have a tough time getting product to the field in a timely manner.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And it looks like more farmers were able to get some planting done in the last week or so. USDA putting corn planting now at 3%. That's 1% ahead of the 5-year average. Texas stands at 61% planted. Cotton planting is at 6% nationwide. That's 1% behind the average. Not much change in the winter wheat condition, with just 27% now rated good to excellent. Last week it was 28%. Kansas continuing to suffer with 61% of the crop rated poor to very poor. Many farmers spent Easter weekend digging out from a blizzard, with some areas exceeding a foot of snow in North Dakota. Krista Kudrowski of AgDay affiliate KFYR visited a farmer in the Lemoore area to see how things are going.
This is a road on the Wendell family farm 6 miles north of Lemoore before the blizzard hit Tuesday afternoon. This is what the scene was 12 hours later after the region received a foot of snow. Mike Wendell says the snowstorms have been relentless, but the biggest obstacle to overcome has been the wind.
So the biggest challenge is going to be to dig out, and our roads were so full and deep before this hit, they're just going to be blown in and very, very hard to open and to get around.
They need to dig out quickly because they're still calving. Wendell says they plan to calve at the beginning of March, but still have about a quarter of their herd yet to drop.
We do have facilities, buildings that we can get them into with supplemental heat. So we are kind of geared for that.
The deep snow, bitter cold, and blowing winds aren't the end of their troubles. Large herds of deer have been coming into their hay yards to eat the food meant for their cattle.
It has been a problem, and this year especially. We've had so much cover out in the open that there's nothing for them really to eat. So they're all congregating in hay yards, and I know I'm not the only producer with big herds of deer.
April blizzard. Snow's getting a little deep.
Once cleanup is over, the next variable will be how quickly the snow melts and whether it soaks in or runs off. That will impact spring planting. For your news leader, I'm Krista Kidrowski.
Well, some areas of the country have been inundated with rain and snow, and others, drought concerns remain. Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joins us. And Andrew, there are fire concerns right now.
Let's take a look at this map behind me. We've got a kind of a blocking pattern setting up this week across the eastern half of the country. It's what's called a Rex block. And what this is a strong area of high pressure that sets up just due north of a low pressure system that is going to be developing down across the Gulf of Mexico, and it can last several days, which it will this week. And I think it'll start to break down, though, as we head towards the end of the week and into this upcoming weekend. And you notice on that jet stream energy there, by this weekend, by Saturday, that high starts to break on down. We'll be watching a trough digging out of the plains states, and that'll bring with it another round of moisture for the Great Lakes states, which have been dry as of recent, thanks to that rocks blacking pattern. We do have to watch out for some elevated fire concerns there across the central prairie. We're talking about the western half there of Nebraska, as well as northwestern Kansas. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled here for some elevated fire risk concerns as we will begin to see our wind speeds increasing upwards of around 30 to 40 miles an hour. Combine that with low relative humidity of around 20 to 25%. That could easily spark fires, and that part of the country is exceptionally dry. And some areas in need of rain finally getting some. David of Hayesville, Kansas, sharing this video. He tells us every rain is important right now. He says while this rain only covered about half of his operation, the wheat, he says, desperately needed a drink. Oh, more on your AgDay forecast in just a few.
Operations are back to normal at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. That's after several dock workers didn't show up for shifts on Thursday and Friday. That closed off 4 of the port's container terminals for a time. Currently, unions representing workers at the 2 ports are in talks over a new contract. They have been working without a new contract since July. Now, it's estimated about 40% of the foreign goods arriving in the U.S. are processed through those 2 ports, but cargo volumes have dropped significantly from their peak levels this time last year. Now, experts say the threat of delays has spurred some retailers and importers to start turning to other ports. Despite efforts in Congress to roll back the Biden administration's Waters of the U.S. rule, the president has vetoed the legislation. Now, it happened on Thursday last week. This is that vetoed resolution posted on the president's Twitter page. Proponents of the resolution arguing that this latest WOTUS rule is overreached by the executive branch. Republican lawmakers say it created red tape that would lead to confusion within a variety of industries, including agriculture. Well, Thursday's announcement from President Biden marks the second veto of his presidency. It was another mixed day for grains while cattle markets continue to turn heads. We'll discuss it all coming up next in Analysis. And later, a sweet treat in the South. It's strawberry season in Louisiana. We'll take a tour of this year's crop today in the country.
AgDay is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
The EPA says 5 people were sentenced this week for their roles in a $1 billion biofuel tax conspiracy. EPA says according to court documents and testimony, Lev Aslan Derman conspired with Jacob and Isaiah Kingston, their mother Rachel Kingston, and Jacob's wife Sally Kingston, and others to fraudulently claim more than $1 billion in refundable renewable fuel tax credits. The agency says the IRS ultimately paid out more than $511 million in credits to Washakie Renewable Energy. It was a Utah biodiesel plant owned by the Kingstons. They then distributed the money among themselves and Derman. In one scheme, it's alleged they bought biodiesel, exported it to other countries, then doctored documents to disguise and import the biodiesel as feedstock. Then they used the fake paperwork to claim it produced biodiesel from feedstock to support its filing of fraudulent claims for RINs and biofuel tax credits. Jacob Kingston telling jurors during Derman's trial they had more money than they could launder, so they started buying things like Lamborghinis and Bugattis, along with yachts, private jets, and mansions. Corn starting the trading week off with some gains. Michelle Rook is back to talk to Dwayne Bussey in markets now.
Monday's market closes were mostly higher with the exception of a few of the soybean contracts. Dwayne Bussey, Bolt Marketing, is in with us. And let's talk about corn. A nice rebound on Monday. So was that corrective buying, do you think, or was that a change in the weather, or what prompted it?
It might be a little bit of all of the above. I think mostly, though, Monday afternoon, the forecast started changing just a little bit for the extended forecast for the Western Corn Belt. A little bit cooler, a little bit wetter, but boy, for this week, planters have been going really hard. So I was really impressed with the recovery in the corn market yesterday.
Yeah, plus you have to also think that maybe there's a little squaring ahead of the WASDE report numbers coming out today with a little tighter ending stocks expected, right?
Yeah, that quarterly stocks report showed supply is a little bit tighter than the trade anticipated. So we're looking at maybe an increase in feed usage, maybe a little bit lower ending stock. We'll see. It shouldn't be a big market mover, but I don't know. I'll take a higher close in corn yesterday.
Yeah, and soybeans ended well off their session lows, but can't seem to get back above this $15 mark.
No, they can't, but maybe today this USDA report might give them that boost. Quarterly stocks were low there as well, and I think you're going to have an ending stock below 200, maybe even down to 185. That is really tight. You combine that with late last week, we had an export sales flash. I think old crop soybeans really should be at $15 or above.
Yeah, we'll see how aggressive USDA wants to be, and then, of course, what we see for South American numbers, that's also important.
Right, correct. Yeah, Brazil's crop might get a little bigger, but Argentina's crop should get slashed pretty hard today.
And then cattle, more new contract highs in the live cattle futures on record cash prices. Not surprising, just the fact that it's coming already is a little surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, record high cash cattle prices, which is great for the guys in the feedlots. The market just held around the highs all day on Monday. It's overbought, and I'm a little worried it needs a correction with some gaps down there too. But boy, it looks like fund buyers were right underneath that market all day on Monday, just willing to buy any little dip. So strong close there as well. Okay, well, hopefully we'll keep going. You got to wonder how long it's going to last. Thanks so much for joining us, Dwayne Bussey with Bolt Marketing. And of course, you can get full analysis at agweb.com, but we'll have more AgDay coming up.
For marketing advice, call Bolt Marketing, a futures and options brokerage firm.
AgDay is brought to you by Lamar's Toy Store, the largest and most diversified farm toy store in the U.S. They have new and old and do restorations and customizations too. You need to see it to believe it. Visit lamarstoystore.com or call us at 712-546-4305.
AgDay Farm Country Forecast is brought to you by Calhoun Superstructure, engineered fabric buildings serving the agriculture and fertilizer industries for over 30 years. Visit calhounsuperstructure.com/AG. That's calhounsuperstructure.com/AG.
Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joining us here. Take a look at our national forecast starting here in the Gulf, where that low could bring some rain to Florida that needs it.
Yeah, we were kind of concerned late last week and early this week that this may end up becoming a potential subtropical system, but right now just panning out to be a low pressure system that's going to bring with it showers and thunderstorms to the Gulf Coast states, and Florida again really needs this moisture, and it looks like as we go throughout this week we'll tap into some of it. And we'll continue to watch this Gulf flow develop. Again, it will bring showers and thunderstorms from Louisiana all the way along the Gulf Coast states. And eventually, as this low begins to meander its way towards the north and east, and as this cold front begins to try to work its way through parts of Florida, it'll eventually transition into more of a stationary front, and that'll again bring ongoing showers to parts of Florida, which is dry. We do need a lot more moisture, and it looks like we'll get some of that rain as we head on into the end of this week. Let's walk you through the jet stream energy here as we go throughout this weekend. This Rex-like pattern that we talked about during Crop Watch will begin to finally break on down, and that'll set the stage for this trough to develop, and this will bring with it a cold front to the Great Lakes states, which have been experiencing well above average temperatures throughout much of this week. And as we head towards the second half of this weekend, we'll see that system working through the Great Lakes states. And in fact, this will likely bring with it below average temperatures to kick off next week. Let's look at the rainfall here as we go throughout this upcoming week. And again, you notice the Gulf Coast states there getting some of those yellows and oranges. an indication of 1, 2, maybe upwards of 3+ inches of rainfall right along the Gulf Coast states. And meanwhile, we'll be watching that trough developing, and that'll bring with it a next chance of moisture across the Great Lakes and continuing with that wet pattern out across the Pacific Northwest. Jet stream pattern here as we go throughout this week. Again, you'll notice that low pressure system developing down to the south, that high pressure system eventually leaving us, and then all eyes on that trough that will develop across the northern plain states and eventually will reach the Great Lakes and New England coastline. And then as we head towards next week, we could be looking at an omega block pattern trying to set up to kick off one of the last weeks of April. Temperatures this afternoon, check out some of the plain states there. They could be getting those temperatures up into the 80s as far north as parts of the southwestern tiers there of the Dakotas. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at your AgDay select cities. Going over to Boston, Virginia, sunshine and warm, high 75 degrees. Flagstaff, Arizona, sunny, high 72. And going over to Oshkosh, Nebraska, sunny and breezy, high fire danger for today, high temperature 86 degrees.
A popular platform for agricultural news and the emergency alert system, AM radio, is getting left behind. There's word that Ford may ditch AM radio in some or all of its commercially produced vehicles. The automaker has already gotten rid of it in 2 of its models. Now, it's reported so far a total of 8 automakers say they will remove AM radio from the dashboards of some of their models. That's despite the Federal Emergency Management Agency's push about the critical role AM plays in delivering public safety information. More milk, but potentially fewer cows. We have the latest milk production forecast from USDA next. And later, with spring weather comes the strawberry crop. We're off to Louisiana for a taste of the season so far in the country. USDA releasing its new outlook for dairy this year, raising its milk production forecast. It says production for this year is projected to be just over 228 billion pounds. That's slightly higher than last month's forecast. Milk cows are projected to average more than 9 million head. That's 10,000 head higher than last month. However, cow numbers are expected to decline through the year as lower numbers of replacement heifers and higher expected cull cow prices will likely contribute to the decline of the dairy herd. Now, for the second time this year, a dairy margin coverage payment will be issued. February's DMC income over feed cost calculation is $6.19 per hundredweight. Milk production coverage at the $9.50 level will receive more than $2,600 for each 1 million pounds insured. Phil Plurt of Ever.Ag says we've seen a little improvement in the numbers over the past few weeks, although the margin picture for this year continues to look weaker compared to 2022. Gardeners know right now is peak strawberry season. We're off to Louisiana to see how the crop is doing next.
In the Country on Ag Day is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
It's the peak of strawberry season in Louisiana, and as LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux reports, the bright red fruit is being harvested right now.
The strawberries are big, sweet, and ripe at the Landry Poche farm near Holden.
We have a wonderful crop out here, and we're hoping to keep picking berries all the way up until Mother's Day.
Production has been good at the farm. Warmer weather in January and February helped kickstart the growing season, and only a brief cold snap just after St. Patrick's Day slowed the harvest down.
Weather's been really perfect around here. Perfect strawberry growing weather is 50-degree nights and 70-degree days, so everything has been really, really good.
For some growers, a disease issue has hampered production, but the Landry Poche farm was able to control the disease with only minimal fruit loss.
It's a fungus, and it will produce spores, and it can be easily spread by workers handling the plants, moving through the field. Later it can produce spores, and then those can become windblown as well.
The strawberry industry has seen the number of growers shrink because of hard economic times. Fighting a disease places an added burden.
The fungicides are not cheap, they are expensive, and having to do additional applications costs the farmer each time, so that is cutting into profit.
This time of year is Rhonda Poche's favorite because she starts opening up her farm to school groups and teaches them the importance of farming.
The strawberry industry is dwindling, and if we can get one child interested in doing some type of farming, then I think we've accomplished something.
If one decides to go to a U-pick strawberry farm, make sure the berries are completely red because strawberries do not ripen after being picked. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Griffiths. Have a great day.